Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the different types of EQs and why I personally like to choose one over the other in certain situations. So first we have at number one, the parametric EQ. And everybody is going to recognize this EQ. This is going to be like the most used EQ. And probably this specific one as well. I mean, FabFilter Pro Q3 really killed it with the amount of flexibility and just what you can do with this thing. So parametric EQs are going to be the number one EQ. And like I said, with what you can do with them, it just makes them the best, and they rank number one for me. So this is Pro Q3 by FabFilter. And this, I just included this in the video as well. This is Ableton's EQ8, which is also parametric EQ. At number two, we have the fixed EQs. So these are going to be EQs that give you only a few selection of frequencies to choose from. And the reason why these things are so good is because they only give you a few frequencies to choose from, right? So it kind of makes it easier when you're going through the frequencies, especially if like you're new with EQing. And like when I first started EQing, I'm like, holy shit, like there's a lot to choose from. Like, do I boost here? Do I cut there? Like, what am I doing with this thing? Well, this is a cool way to start because these guys, like the people who made these things, I mean, they put these specific frequencies on here for a reason, right? So I really recommend, like, if you have any of these, I know Waves Bundle has a few of them, other bundles do as well. I also had the API up here. This is also a fixed EQ. I recommend just going through, like, you know, put like a 4 or 5 dB boost and going through some of the frequencies on any particular sound that you're working with and seeing what it does. You know what I mean? Maybe you'll find something that you really like. At number three, we have the channel EQ. So the channel EQ is kind of an interesting one because it's not only, in most cases, an EQ. The SSL channel is, I mean, it has a dynamic section and it's got the straight up filters along with the EQ. I really like to put this thing on vocals just because of the flexibility that it has with everything else. But just talking about a straight up channel EQ, Ableton actually did us a favor and made us one. It's a really simple EQ, and that's kind of the way that I like to look at it. If there's any reason I want to boost just the highs, you can easily do that here with a nice natural shelf. If you want to boost the lows or trim down the lows, you can easily do that. It's a no-brainer EQ, and it turns out really natural. It's transparent, and it has a visual on it, which is really cool as well. And it does have a middle band as well, and you can change the crossover. And, you know, if you wanted to add some presence to a snare, vocal, guitar, whatever, you can kind of get that in there as well. And the Q isn't too tight, which makes it really natural for boosting. And so lastly, we have the graphic EQ. So the graphic EQ is something that I don't personally reach for. I never really have. I just included it in this video because it is a type of EQ. There are applications where these things are very useful, especially in live performances, cutting out feedback, tuning rooms for acoustics and stuff like that. It's really useful. But basically, you just have a bunch of frequencies listed out as if it was kind of like a fixed frequency EQ, but there's a lot more to choose from, and you basically just boost or cut where you want. So you can play with that. Go ahead. I mean, this might work out better if the visual of the EQ is something that you like. And so, yeah, go ahead. This is one that I found on the Waves bundle. So if you're interested in using it, go ahead and check it out and play with it. So that's pretty much it for all the different types of EQs out there. We do have dynamic EQs, and Pro Q3 does act as a dynamic EQ. I just didn't really want to get too far into that just because this is more around EQing itself instead of compression. So I'll kind of leave that out of there. But again, that just gives the Pro Q3 another reason why it's on top. It's one of the best EQs out there. So now that we've learned a little bit more about the different types of EQs, I kind of want to just go over this little beat that I have up here. It's not fully mixed, it's not done at all. I want to give you an idea of where I applied some of these different EQs for the reasons why I thought they would be most useful. So let's check this out. So starting at the drums, let's just have a listen. So this is just like a simple parametric EQ from Ableton, the EQ8. And the reason why I put this on here was just to give a simple boost in the mid-range. And also, I usually just put parametric EQ, especially the EQ8, because it's really low in CPU, on pretty much every track, because I love the visual that I get from it. It gives me an idea of what I'm working with, and I'm able to kind of then adjust whatever sound easier in the mix. I like to mix as I go. So that's a good reason why to throw an EQ on there, even if you're not even using it to EQ. So this EQ I have is just boosting the mid-range. I wanted a little bit more mid-range in there. I threw another one on my kick just to take out some of that muddy mid-range, boost some of the highs. Kind of wanted a nice high end of the kick, wanted a nice clean low end of the kick. So I put that on there. It's a pretty common EQ move right there. I don't think I have any EQ on the rest of these. Let's see here. I threw EQ on my tom fills and stuff like that, just so I was able to see where they're hitting. Sometimes you'll throw in some tom fills from like a pack that you have or whatever, and they'll occupy a lot of low end. Sometimes you want to shave that off. Sometimes you want to boost that. It's always nice to just, like I said, throw one on there, get a visual of where those frequencies are hitting. Especially if you're somebody who likes to tune your drums, the EQ is really nice because you get to see where that fundamental is hitting. I had this guitar track here that's going on with a couple different takes. I grouped them all up, and I have this parametric EQ on here. Again, I really wanted to see what was going on frequency-wise to see the, all the frequencies in the spectrum there. I ended up taking out a little bit of that boomy mid-range, mainly because I wanted that space to occupy, or I wanted that space occupied by another instrument. So I took that out. I also have a fixed frequency EQ on here, and this is the reason why I chose this one was because I wanted some of that color that these provide. These are emulated from real analog pieces of gear, and they give an extra tonality to the signal, which most parametric EQs don't. They're usually transparent. So I usually reach for one of these guys, fixed frequency, for boosting. So I boosted 12.5K just for that shimmer on top of the guitar, 1.5 just for some extra presence. And again, I took out a little bit of 200 with the 2 dB cut, just so I can make room for the piano that I have in here. So I'll show you guys what that sounds like. This is with it. And I take it out. You can immediately tell that the high end kind of drops down. It's not so much in your face. And obviously, this is me just trying to do sound design before a vocal comes in. If a vocal did come in and that was like in the way of the vocal, I would adjust that EQ accordingly. And that's pretty much it. Here's another EQ on this piano section. I am dropping down a little bit in the 250, 300 range. It's kind of like that boxy area, just to kind of shape it more, giving it some high mids right there, just for some presence where I want it to pop out. And then kind of just, preserving that low end where the fundamental cuts off right here. You can always tell the fundamental by the first frequency that you see, and that kind of defines the sound. So you don't really want to mess with that too much. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all the EQs that I've used in here. And just to show you guys, because I don't have a vocal on here, and that would be my biggest way of, or like the easiest way of showing you guys how I like to use that channel EQ. But let's take a look at this little drums bus here. Let's put all these back. So say if I were to turn this on, and I wanted the drums to maybe have a little bit more shimmer on top, all you gotta do is just boost it. Now the hi-hats, you know, cutting in, they're a little more sharper. Maybe I want that snare to be a little louder. This is with it, and this is without it. So really brainless move, you know what I mean? So that's how I see the channel EQ working. It's just, you want something real simple, boom, boom, 2 knobs, and you know, you've EQ'd your sound. So, and I don't really have anything on here to show you guys how I use the graphic EQ because like I said, I don't really use it. I just threw it in this video so that you guys could check it out if you're interested to do so. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys learned something and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.